You've probably heard a lot about self-love, but no one ever taught you this. Somatic experiencing changed everything for me. Not just the way I feel, but how I relate to myself in the hard moments, in the quiet moments, and especially when everything inside me used to scream, numb out, shut down, check out. Now, if you've ever felt like you're constantly coping, not really living, this video is for you. I want to share the most powerful self-love practice I've ever discovered. One that helped me reconnect with myself, build real resilience, and finally feel safe in my own body again. You see, for most of my life, I had very little meaningful connection with myself. Oh, sure, I could journal, I could go for a walk, or distract myself with a podcast. But when the hard stuff came up, the big, raw, overwhelming emotions, my default was to cope. Food, wine, doing more, staying busy. I wasn't avoiding life exactly. I was avoiding what was living inside me because it felt too big, too messy, too much. What I didn't realize is that my lack of connection wasn't a personal failure. It was a nervous system stuck in survival mode. I was constantly scanning for danger. I didn't feel safe or anchored or compassed. I felt like I was floating in the middle of the ocean, no map, no anchor, no direction. Life was happening to me, and I didn't know how to get back into the driver's seat. I didn't have clarity about what I wanted or where I was going. I second-guessed myself constantly, and underneath it all, I felt deeply disconnected from others, from my body, from myself. Now, things really started to change when I stopped trying to think my way out of it and started learning how to feel my way through. When I found somatic experiencing, I realized for the first time I didn't need to fix myself. I needed to reconnect with myself. Somatic experiencing helped me understand that anxiety, numbing, the constant coping with food or other things that I used to get through life, these aren't character flaws. These are survival responses from a nervous system that was just doing its best to protect me. But survival mode can't give us a fulfilling life. It can't give us clarity and connection. It tries to keep us safe, but what we really end up being is stuck. Now, when I began to gently reconnect with my body, not by pushing or judging, but by listening, I started to feel something I had never experienced. Safety, groundedness, presence. And from this strong foundation, everything else started to shift. I wasn't just reacting to life anymore. I wasn't relating to it and to myself. I was relating to myself in a whole new way. In fact, somatic practices became a key part of what I now call the freedom formula, which is the step-by-step method for breaking free from survival mode and creating an authentic, expansive life. I wrote all about the freedom formula in my You're Not the Problem book series. So let's get into one of the somatic practices that you can start with today. This morning, like many mornings, I created space for me to come home to myself. I lit my incense, rolled out my meditation mat, and I sat down surrounded by all the sacred objects that tell my nervous system, you're safe here. And then I simply noticed. I didn't try to fix or analyze. I didn't fill the space with distractions or silence the discomfort. I simply noticed. And there was a slight tug on my heart and a fluttering in my stomach, a soft ache of longing. I stayed with these sensations, the way you would sit with your best friend on the couch, soft blanket across your lap, a cup of warm tea in hand, saying, I'm here, tell me everything. And my body did. What I felt was a longing to be nurtured. So without needing to figure it out, I instinctively placed my hand on my heart and gently stroked my cheek and whispered, you are loved. You are nurtured. I became both the one that needed love and the one that gave it. And this simple, quiet act, this presence, is one of the most powerful self-love practices you can offer yourself, and it has been the cornerstone of my personal transformation. Now, with me as the caretaker of my own experience, I'm no longer lost or floating. I'm not avoiding or numbing out. I'm here, fully alive. Because I learned to listen and respond to what's happening inside of me, I now have a strong foundation from which to create life. And as you begin to trust the wisdom of your body, your true compass, it can guide you with that clarity, that purpose, that confidence. And you'll stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you'll start hearing, you're okay, you're home. So let me pause right here. I want to address something really important. If what I'm describing to you feels incredibly foreign, if the idea of sitting with your body and responding to yourself with compassion feels awkward or even impossible, you're not alone. I had no idea how to do this at first, and honestly, I was convinced that it probably wouldn't help me. But what I've learned, and what I now teach, is this. Anyone can learn to connect with themselves in this way. With patience, practice, and the right guidance, this kind of self-attunement becomes not only possible, it becomes the pathway to deep healing. So let's take a closer look at why this works and what's really going on beneath the surface. But before we do, let me just take a quick second. I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you support this important body of work for yourself and others, and you ensure that more helpful information can find you more easily. I also want to let you know that I've prepared a free resource, the Inner Compass Toolkit, that you can download below this description of the video. This guide lays out 5 essential somatic practices that can help you quiet the noise of stress and overwhelm and reconnect you with your body's wisdom. Once again, the link to gain access to the resource, and you can also join the You're Not the Problem community. These are below in the video description. So, in order to learn how to be with our emotions, we need to understand what emotions actually are. Many of us were taught implicitly or explicitly that emotions happen in the mind. We feel sad or anxious because of what we're thinking, so we try to fix our thoughts, hoping that the feelings will go away. But emotions aren't mental. They're deeply embodied experiences. They can certainly arise from our thoughts, but emotions live in the body, in the tension in our shoulders, in the tightness in our chest, in the flutter in our stomach, or the clench of our jaw. And that's not a poetic metaphor. That is neurophysiology. As clinical psychologist and somatic trauma expert Dr. Ariel Schwartz explains, trauma is stored in the body as a physiological imprint. When we ignore or override our emotions, they don't go away. They go underground and show up as pain, numbness, illness, or disconnection. Similarly, Dr. Gabor Mate, renowned for his work on trauma and chronic illness, states that emotions are not just psychological events. They're deeply connected to our physiology, and when we suppress them, we pay the price in our bodies. Somatic therapies, including somatic experiencing and others, work with this reality, not against it. They help us access the emotional imprints that have become stuck in our bodies so we can release what's been held and start to repair the disconnection from ourselves. Now, learning to tune into our bodies, it helps us connect to our deepest truths. Somatic practices enhance interoception, which is the ability to sense internal body states, which is closely linked to emotional awareness and decision making. By tuning into bodily sensations, we can gain access to our intuition. We can also gain clarity on what we truly need and desire. And this is so important because when we don't have access to our needs and desires, we often seek external validation or comforts because what we truly need is only possible if we're in tune with our internal world. Through somatic practices, we can cultivate a deeper connection with the body and the subtle cues of the body, the flutter in the stomach, the warmth in the chest, right? These can guide you towards actions aligned with your authentic self. And over time, this embodied awareness will become your internal compass, helping you navigate life's complexities with greater confidence and clarity. Because without this connection to our bodily wisdom, we often find ourselves overwhelmed by emotion, disconnected from our needs, reliant on external validation. And all of these things, they cause us to ignore our inner voice and to act in ways that are out of alignment or that don't serve. Reconnecting with our bodies through somatic practices allows us to process these emotions effectively, make aligned decisions, cultivate that deep sense of clarity, resilience, and self-trust. Now, before embracing somatic work, I felt like a complete stranger to myself. I prioritized others' needs over my own, which of course led to feelings of resentment and exhaustion. I remember being, attending social gatherings and things and smiling and engaging in conversations, but feeling a profound emptiness inside. I was just going through the motions, disconnected from any sort of sense of joy or fulfillment. Somatic practices taught me to tune in, to honor my boundaries, nurture myself with the same compassion I extended to others. And this shift has transformed my relationships, my work, and most importantly, my relationship with myself. So how can you begin to use the life-changing practice of somatic connection? Let's get really practical now. The first step is make space for you. If you wanted to know what was really going on with your best friend, you'd call her, right? You'd make time. You'd sit down with her over a cup of tea or a glass of wine and you'd say, I'm here. Tell me everything. That's what making space for somatic connection looks like. It's an invitation to meet yourself, not your thoughts about yourself, but the real you underneath the surface. Now, it may sound strange at first. We live in our bodies, don't we? But the truth is, many of us are disconnected from them. Just like it's possible to live with another person and be disconnected from them, it's absolutely possible to live with your body and be disconnected from it. Maybe that disconnection started in childhood when no one helped you name or regulate your emotions, or in moments of trauma when the only way to survive was to shut down the overwhelming physical sensations. Or maybe it's just the result of a fast-paced, overstimulated culture that rewards productivity and numbing over presence and self-awareness. Somatic practices give you a mechanism for self-tending. They teach you how to listen to your body like you would that dear friend. So making space doesn't require hours or fancy rituals. It requires intention. Start with 5 minutes in your morning, every morning. Sit quietly. Put your hand on your heart or your belly and breathe. Don't try to figure anything out. Just notice. The channels of communication might not open immediately, and that's okay. If you've been disconnected for years or decades like I was, your body may not trust that you're really going to listen. But if you keep showing up, you'll feel the shift. You'll begin to rebuild the bridge back to yourself. Now, when you do start feeling more, I just want to let you know that it might not always be warm and fuzzy. Sometimes opening those channels brings discomfort, anxiety, or grief. This does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It means something is finally being heard. If it does feel overwhelming, gently set some boundaries. You might say, okay, I'm going to be with this feeling for 1 minute today. And then over time, your capacity will grow. You can also pause your practice and get some support because you do not have to do this alone. Sometimes we need that compassionate witness to help us hold what feels too big. And that's exactly what we needed, right, in those past moments. And because that support was not available, that's why the feelings and emotions got stuck. As a somatic healing practitioner, one of the greatest honors I have is to be that witness. I've sat with people as they felt emotions they hadn't accessed in years or ever, and watched the freedom that followed. So support is available for you, and you can find out more about that on my website. Now, the second step after you make space is to listen with compassion, okay? Not with your mind, but with your body. Most of us are used to tuning into our thoughts first, right? We've been conditioned to solve, to analyze, to understand everything mentally. But your thoughts can only tell you what your brain thinks is true. Your body, it tells you what's actually true. It's like sitting down with that friend that we've been talking about who's clearly upset, but she's saying, I'm fine. Or she's venting about something that's totally surface level, but you know that's not the real issue. Her tone, her fidgeting, the way her eyes don't meet yours, that's where the truth lies. The body is the same way. It may not speak in words, but it never lies. So as you sit in the space you've made for yourself, begin to gently shift your attention from your thoughts to your sensations. What's happening in your body? Where do you feel tightness, heat, heaviness, fluttering, numbness, buzzing? What areas feel calm or open? A body scan can really help with you, for you to more easily connect with what's there. You simply start at your feet and then slowly move your awareness upward and pausing at each area of your body. Legs, hips, belly, chest, shoulders, arms, face, neck, all of it. And if your mind wanders, and it will, that's okay. Just gently bring the focus back to your body. Let it be a soft inquiry, not a forced one. And when you notice a sensation, stay with it for a moment and get curious. What is this sensation trying to tell me? If this tightness in my chest could speak, what would it say? What does the dull ache in my belly need from me right now? Some examples might be a tug, like the one in my heart this morning whispered, I want to be nurtured. A lump in a client's throat might say, please let me speak. I'm tired of staying silent. A clenching in someone's gut might say, I don't feel safe here. A dull ache behind the eyes murmurs, you've been holding back tears for days. Floating sensation in the head might say, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not grounded. Right? Sometimes the messages are clear like that, and other times they're very foggy or wordless, and that's okay. You may not know what a sensation means right away, and you don't need to. This isn't about fixing anything or interpreting perfectly. It's really just about building trust. Like any relationship, the one with your body deepens over time through that consistency and care. And this is the moment where we become our own compassionate caretakers, where you simply ask, gentle and sincerely, please tell me what you need. Now, if you do start to feel unsure or disconnected, don't assume you're doing something wrong. It takes practice to learn the language of sensation, especially if you've been shut down for a long time. And sometimes your body may say, I don't feel anything at all. And that's information too. Numbness doesn't mean you're failing or even that your practice is useless. It's a protective strategy your system developed at some point. But you're not the problem. You're just learning to speak a language you were never taught. If you woke up suddenly in a foreign country and you couldn't speak the native language right away, you wouldn't assume that something was wrong with you, would you? Right? You would slowly learn to relate to the people around you in whatever ways you could. And over time, you'd learn some of their vocabulary and they would learn some of yours. So give yourself some time and grace as you learn to speak the language of your body. And again, this is where a compassionate guide can help. In my practice, I often support people to tune into those sensations they've been ignoring for years or decades, and having someone with you gently guiding your awareness, helping you name what you feel without judgment, this can make all of the difference. So you've made space, you've listened. Step 3 is to respond with compassion. And it's really here that we ask, what do you need? How can I show up for you right now? This morning in my own practice, as I've been sharing, my heart felt tender. I didn't need to journal or go for a walk. I needed to be nurtured. So I stroked my face gently. I rested my hand on my heart and I whispered to myself, you are nurtured and loved. And it was simple, small, and it was everything. Your body knows what it needs and it will tell you if you ask and if you're willing to respond without judgment or agenda. Now here, I think it's really important for me to mention to avoid the somatic to-do list. When I first discovered somatic work, I was handed a checklist. Do this to calm down, do this to ground yourself, try this for anxiety. And those practices are valuable and helpful to know. In fact, it's why I offer a wide library of practices in my courses and in my work with clients. But here's the deeper truth. Your nervous system is unique. What works for someone else may not work for you. What works for you today may not work for you tomorrow. One of the biggest reasons people give up on somatic practices is because they don't work the way they were told they would. I've heard that so many times in my practice. Well, I tried the VU sound, but it didn't calm me down. Breath work made me feel more anxious, or I felt like I was doing it wrong. So let me be clear, you're not doing it wrong. You are doing the deeper work of learning your system's language. The goal of somatic practice isn't to control the body, it's to connect with it. It's not do this to feel better or try this and 5 steps to calm. No, it's try this and see what your body says in response. You're not trying to fix yourself. You're building a relationship with yourself, and that's a very different energy. Some days the right response might be placing your hand on your heart. Other days, your body might need something active, like shaking, stretching, stomping, dancing, walking in nature. Sometimes you might need to release emotion through sound or through tears, and sometimes it might be a silence, a stillness, or a firm boundary. Just like, a best friend, the one that we've been talking about, they might need a hug one day and want to get rowdy the next. Your body's needs are going to shift. And being a compassionate responder doesn't mean giving a set response. It means offering something with care and saying, how does this feel to you? Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to know what to do right away. Just start with curiosity. Try something on. See how it feels. This is a learning process, and your body is always teaching. The downloadable Inner Compass Toolkit, which is available below in the description of this video, will give you 5 specific tools that you can use to begin building your toolkit of somatic practices. It gives you some options so you're not staring at a blank wall when your body says, I need something. Now, as you start to work with these practices, please remember that if you feel stuck at any point, reach out. This is what I do. I help people get past that stuck point and into meaningful relationship with their inner world. And I haven't yet met a body that wouldn't respond with the time, care, and right kind of support. So the bottom line here is self-care is not a spa day. It's the courageous act of asking, what do you need? And then showing up to meet that need, even if imperfectly. And over time, this is how you build trust, safety, and resilience from the inside out. So the steps I've shared here, they may sound simple, but they are deeply powerful. Make space. Listen with compassion. Respond with care, right? You don't need to overhaul your life or fix yourself. You just need a place to begin. And that starts with a moment, with a breath, with a choice to pause and listen. And even if nothing profound happens, especially if nothing profound happens, just notice. You're beginning a relationship that has the power to change everything. Now, if you're ready for more support as you build that inner connection, I've created the Inner Compass Toolkit. You can download that below. Again, this guide's going to lay out 5 essential somatic practices that can help you quiet the noise of stress and overwhelm and reconnect you with your body's wisdom. And I also want to remind you that you are so welcome inside the You're Not the Problem community, which is also linked in the description below. And I thank you for being here and spending time with me. And I can't wait to hear your insights and your questions and whatever you need as you apply this information in your life and move forward.